I am nothing if not on time and timely. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining the latest in our series of master classes for finance leaders. Today's master class is going to be on customer invoicing and billing, um, automation and accuracy using AI. So here we go. If you haven't been on the classes before and you're a little curious about me, my name is Phyllis Saavedra. I lead the customer success team at Emagia. I come with more years than I care to share as a practitioner in the order to cash space, mostly focusing on finance transformation and automation and best practices in accounts receivable and order to cash. And my journey now is working with our customers at Emagia and helping them get to the same place of finance transformation and utilizing AI to help enhance both the customer experience as well as improving their financial metrics like working capital metrics, DSO, and delinquency. So that's a little bit about me. Um, just a little bit about our sponsor, my company, Emagia. This, by the way, is not a sales presentation. Those that know me know that that's not my style, but I think it's important to know where we come from and why we are considered a leader in the industry and why it's, why we have a certain degree of recognition. Imagia itself has been around about almost 20 years. We have a set of marquee customers. We've received numerous accolades from various financial and analyst firms, people like Gartner, Hackett, IDC. We have a number of partnerships within the order to cash and finance space. People like NACM, Shared Services Network, a lot of the credit organizations like Dun and Bradstreet and Experian, Credit Safe. We partner with most of the major ERPs and CRMs, people like Salesforce, Oracle, SAP, ServiceNow. And then we have a good number of implementation partners, many of the BPOs, along with our sister company, Solix, which is a big data provider. So lots of good experience, lots of implementations. We've run, almost $1 trillion worth of receivables through our solution. We are practice in, at least 27 languages in over 70 countries. So we've got a lot of expertise, and today is about sharing our expertise with you, and hopefully everybody will come away having learned something. With that, let's get started. So our agenda today, it's going to be a very quick 30 minutes. The first thing I want to talk about is customer-facing presentment and dispute portals, electronic invoice payment and presentment. Next, we'll talk a little bit about the multi-layered ecosystem and within which billing and invoice sits. Then we'll talk about essential components of a modern AI invoicing system. We'll then transition to talk about the neurosymbolic hybrid. Oh, that's a fancy way of saying where we need to be, at least in 2026. Finally, we'll go to future trends in AI-powered billing systems, and then a little bit about how you can utilize all of this process for fraud prevention and anomaly detection, which is super important in any organization today, especially in those that are publicly traded and fall under SOX guidance and things like that. All righty, so a little bit about this. First thing, I want to start out by telling you, anybody that was here previously, I had said Cash App is one of those areas where you get the most value for your implementation. What I will say about invoicing is, from a financial perspective, and in my experience as a practitioner, invoicing is the area where you are going to see the greatest improvements in delinquencies, in working capital, along with customer satisfaction. What we typically see is about north of 50% of the delinquencies with customers, and you would pull out, say, financial issues, bankruptcies, financially challenged, and all of those. But those that are paying slow, that don't have financial challenges, it typically stems from either not receiving an invoice timely, receiving an invoice that is incorrect, or receiving an invoice that is difficult for an AP team to interpret. So if you want to get value and you want to make some very rapid improvements in cash flow and metrics, here's the area I think you should start with. And I recommend this to everybody. So, what is available out there? Number one, you've got these EIPP portals, electronic invoice payment and presentment portals. These allow your customers direct interaction with your business. They can come in, they can pull down the invoices. This is kind of a push system where you as the vendor, you as the company can send out invoices and you give your customers 24/7 direct access. Any good solution is going to have an ability for a customer to pay through that portal, dispute through the portal, download and view their invoice, and get it directly to their AP department. So the other component of this is fully utilizing your generative AI assistance, and it becomes conversational invoices. Similar to something like here at Emagia, we use Emagia's Gia GPT, but this will allow your AI assistant to interface with billing data. It allows your buyers to chat directly with your billing portal and resolve discrepancies, inquiries on balances with zero human interaction. So the first step is really you've got access for your customers. Second step, you've got assistants that allow your customers to converse directly and resolve their issues. So what does the ecosystem look like? It really is comprised of three different components. You've got the brain, you've got the muscles, and then you've got the foundation. The brain itself is, that's your AI. It's your artificial intelligence along with machine learning. So you have the ability to get better and better and learn. AI invoices leverage machine learning and natural language processing to automate the creation, processing, and management of your bills. It saves time by auto extracting data from the documents. It auto generates specifically tailored invoice formats. It verifies purchase orders and automatically triggers payment reminders to improve payment. Now, you want to be able to, in the future world, send your customer an invoice that they can pay off. So you want to be able to structure that invoice. You want to be able to make it a full end-to-end solution where what you're sending out easily gets paid. The second step is the muscle. This is the automation component of your invoicing and billing layer. When you look at a system, the system I'll reference is, say, ours. We, for example, have an order management agent that will capture the automation that captures purchase orders. It captures purchase orders. It captures any sort of billing information. It can capture a quote. It can capture structured and unstructured data. It takes it from globally from omni-channel sources, and it validates the information that comes in against your enterprise master data. And then it can post those sales orders to the ERP. What this does is allows for about 80 to 95% touchless order management. You're booking your orders faster, you're shipping faster. What it does is it gives you much more accurate invoicing. The entire order to cash process, just by automating this front end validation of your orders and flowing straight through to your invoice, reduces errors by almost 90%, and it makes your order management about 10 times faster. The final layer in the ecosystem is that data infrastructure. You're generating, AI is generating your invoices in seconds. It's pulling in all the customer details, it's pulling in pricing data, it's pulling in SKU information, it's pulling in payment terms, all of that contractual data that you need in order to put in a minimal amount of human effort and minimal input from someone in the organization. So we utilize all these three different layers in order to get to a level of approximately 80 to 95% automation. So let's talk a little bit about, there are really what I think of as four essential components of modern AI invoicing. We've got, really four different layers. You've got the ingestion layer. The ingestion layer is where you get all the billing inputs. And I talked a little bit about that in the previous slide. You've got omni-channel billing capture. And what this does is aggregates the real-time triggers from a diverse amount of sources. It can be a sales order that's coming from a CRM system, a system like a Salesforce or a ServiceNow, can come in from various usage meters. If you bill based upon usage, it might be number of clicks or number of access or something like that. You might be billing, you might be a professional services firm and billing off of services timesheets. These things come in via API. You can also be pulling in from various contract systems. So you're pulling in and aggregating all of this data. The second component of these billing inputs is the intelligent event classification. So AI, using an AI model, it allows you to instantly categorize the input into billing events, so you know whether it's a credit adjustment, you know whether it's a contract renewal. It has the ability to filter out notes and things that are not related to billable services. What it is truly doing is providing you very specific data, and it ensures your data integrity. The second layer or second engine, as we would call it, is the extraction engine, where you're using AI to cognitively capture data versus the old way of doing it, which was a template. So you've got basically dynamic billing line extraction. If you're using an LLM-driven engine, large language driven engine, it has the ability to parse out unformatted usage logs, mileage entries, variable rate tables, and it allows you to extract exact, precise billable fields. So it's looking, more simply said, it looks at a large amount of data and it gets the things that you want to appear on an invoice, whether it's the quantity, it's the item description, whether it's a tax rate or a tax jurisdiction. It's also using natural language processing. This allows the system to understand context. In other words, does it know the difference or know that the customer uses the term ship to and deliver to synonymously? So are they using these? It has the ability to do some thinking and determining and helping you to make sure that your invoice, again, is much more accurate. It also allows for structured draft composition. So it will convert that extractable billing event into a structured ERP ready draft invoice. It makes sure that the metadata will align with your customer's unique billing requirements and payment term schedule. So again, this all goes back to that concept of invoices that are easy to read, easy to determine, get paid faster. I tell people all the time, they're kind of like, if you picture old school accounts payable team, picture somebody sitting in an office. They get one bill, they look at that bill, and if the amount matches the purchase order value, everything on it looks good, they stamp it to be paid, and the vendor gets paid timely. If that AP person looks at that invoice and they can't figure it out, maybe they see that they shouldn't have been charged tax and they were charged tax. Maybe they're seeing that an amount or a quantity is wrong, or maybe they're seeing that they should have had a proof of delivery attached with it, something like that. It then gets pushed to the problem pile, and those problem piles not only get paid late, they just keep getting pushed further down and further delinquent. So it all comes back to that concept of what you're extracting, what you're putting out on that invoice makes it easier to pay. The third engine that we're going to talk about is the validation engine. This is where we make sure that the contract and the PO are all in alignment. You often, I think, historically have heard of the concept of three-way matching when it comes to AP. There's also a matching when it goes out, when you make sure that you have the ability to cross-reference and cross-check that draft invoice against what information is appearing in your CRM system. When I say CRM, it's something like a Salesforce or a ServiceNow. Oftentimes that's where your quotes will come in. You want to compare it against your MSA, your service agreement, any kind of contract that you've got with your customers. And then finally, you want to make sure it matches to your purchase order. So you've got this three-way matching to guarantee that you've got accuracy. All of this can happen in an automated fashion. Again, when you think about a customer, when they create a purchase order and they allocate funds to that purchase order or that purchase requisition, it makes it so that when an invoice comes through AP, as long as the purchase order number matches and you stay under that purchase order value, in most cases, you're going to be paid a lot more timely. The validation engine also allows you to look for and be proactive about exception management. It will identify billing anomalies, pricing discrepancies, things that are out of scope. If you're missing customer tax IDs, there are certain countries where, especially in Europe, where it's required to have a VAT ID on an invoice. There are various tax regulations. I know, like, for example, in Canada, you need to have HST, GST, PST, and if you're selling to Quebec, QST, and you've got to have the rates and all these different things on your invoices. So this validation engine allows you to go out and validate that you've got all this information that's required so that you're minimizing the chance of having future disputes. And in a sense, you're resolving those disputes before your customer ever even receives a bill. The final and fourth layer is the posting layer. This allows you to get your information posted to your AR subledger, as well as dispatching those invoices out. So, and utilizing AI, you will have the ability to automatically or in an automated fashion post your AR to the subledger. And it will also write those invoice transactions into your ERP so that you've got it's going to hit your AR subledger and it will automatically credit those revenue accounts and debit the customer's open balances. Secondarily, you've got smart multi-channel delivery, the ability to post invoices out to various AP portals. There are many AP portals out there on the market today. Of course, the biggest ones being things like Ariba, Coupa, Tungsten, Talia, those, along with many of your customers, have proprietary AP portals. You want to have an AI solution that has the ability to automatically post out to these portals, validate the information, get a receipt back that indicates that they've received it. And again, saving time and money and getting them to your customer in their preferred channel. One of the other things that's very important, besides these AP portals, there are various government portals that are out there in order to be regulatory and mandate compliances. For example, in our case, we recently announced a partnership with Avalara, where we are utilizing a lot of this, especially in non-US countries, to be able to post directly to these government portals and making sure that we've got the appropriate tax ID numbers and all of the specific information on there. Why is that important? Again, getting all the information that your customer needs on an invoice to pay gets you paid timely. There are any number of regulations out there when you think about Europe and GDPR, and you think about all the taxation out there. There are very specific requirements as to what needs to be on an invoice. You don't want to have somebody sitting in an office and validating and reviewing every single invoice before you send it out the door. So where do we see ourselves in 2026? We're using what's called a neurosymbolic hybrid. And I would say that the best systems are using a generative AI version of this. So what is it? Neurosymbolic AI is really an emerging field that merges pattern recognition of neural workshops, in other words, deep learning, with strict logic and reasoning of symbolic AI. What it does is it aims to create smarter and more trustworthy AI that learns from data but still follows explicit rules. If you look at pure machine learning and deep learning, they're both great at perception. They recognize objects in a picture, they understand speech, but they cannot have full logic. They have occasionally hallucinate, they act as black boxes, whereas symbolic AI provides a rigorous rule-based reasoning, but in this case, it struggles to adapt to messy, unstructured real-world data. When you look at neurosymbolic hybrid, it combines the best of the two. It marries the strengths of both of these to overcome the weaknesses. What it will do is dynamically generate structured, machine-readable e-invoices that can be used in global business-to-business environment to automate invoices that AP portals will not reject. It captures messy variable billing triggers, things like usage meters, timesheets, unstructured fields, all the different things that we see in our complex billing environments. And it converts them into strict structured data that is easily put into an e-invoicing format. Symbolic AI, like I said, handles localized templates. It handles currency formatting. It's got about 90 plus variations, and it handles dynamic tax validation. across global jurisdictions and tries to guarantee zero error compliance. Along with what we've been talking about, we've got some future trends in AI billing power systems. So what do we see as autonomous finance evolves? Number one, we're seeing a shift to multi-agent financial ecosystems. So we're seeing AI to AI negotiations. We're moving beyond static portals to an autonomous setup where suppliers billing AI directly negotiates dispute resolutions, payment terms, early payment discounts, and all of these various components with your buyer's procurement system, with their AP portal. It also is a self-optimizing workflow. Again, we're seeing the future of AI agents that will continuously analyze bottlenecks, they'll rewrite their routing, and they'll validate logic without IT intervention. In other words, it's a thinking system. It's going to continuously analyze what's going on. It's going to see if it's a bottleneck to a payment, and it shifts. It has judgment to it. The next trend we're seeing is predictive liquidity and dynamic treasury integration. We're seeing, and this is really important for those of you that are finance executives, we're seeing real-time working capital forecasting. We're seeing the ability to utilize the invoicing data feeds and bring them directly into predictive treasury models to generate instant accurate cash flow forecast. We know what's coming through. We can also anticipate, machine learning and AI will tell us payment patterns of customers. We can really optimize when the cash is coming in. We're going to have the ability to know what kind of money we've got, how much cash flow is coming. This will directly impact what your AR balances are, how much cash you've got, but it's also going to help you on the liability section of this whole thing. You'll know when you can pay your AP, if you know the money's coming in faster. If your vendors offer early payment discounts, do you want to pay some of your AP early? Or do you have extra cash if you are a company that carries inventory? Do you want to use that to purchase more inventory? How is it you want to manage that working capital? And all of this gives you an ability to utilize this data in a real world fashion to manage those forecasts. You've also got the ability to manage some of your microfinancing and credit adjustments. AI is allowing you to offer tailored supply chain financing if that's what you're looking for. Also, really important, it will allow you to do real-time credit line adjustments. As you are utilizing AI to send out your invoices, you can see what's going out. You can proactively, at the same time, say a customer's bumping up against a credit limit. Using AI and the forecast for invoices to automatically go back, review the credit line, perhaps adjust their credit limit, or possibly send an automated note to a customer saying, hey, you need to pay down your balance. You've bumped up against your credit limit, and we need to get some money in before we can send this invoice. It allows you sort of that end-to-end straight through processing. Final thing is the ability to hyper personalize your billing experience. Every customer has a specific way they want to be billed. So we tailor invoicing dynamically as best as possible, the presentment to our customers in a way that they can drive payment faster, in a way that will make it easy for their AP to pay, in a way that's going to minimize disputes and deductions. Finally, I'm going to quickly talk about fraud prevention. Fraud prevention is really important in this day and age. we are using these AI-powered invoicing models to help us with real-time behavioral analysis. We have the ability to flag atypical changes, things like changes in banking information. I think everybody at this point has been subject to somebody trying to scam them with incorrect, change this bank account, change this routing number. You think it comes from your CFO. It's not. Being able to detect for your customers any of these anomalies that might be out there so that you're minimizing fraudulent transactions. You're also getting an audit trail and transparency so that you get a digital fingerprint for every invoice that goes out. I'm talking to a new customer of ours just yesterday, and she said, we were talking about creation of dunning letters. And she said, well, oftentimes, I send out dunning letter number one, and then I send out dunning letter two, and they say, well, how come you've never reached out to me? This is a case where an audit trail is great. We can go back into a system like ours and say, we sent dunning letter number one. It went on this date. It went to this person. Same concept applies for invoices. Customers frequently say, oh, I didn't get that invoice. Well, yes, you did. Let me verify where we sent it to. We sent it on this date and it went to this person. Is that not accurate? And then finally, when we talk about data privacy and governance, utilizing these generative AI systems, um, all of them should have PII masking, that's personal information masking, and secure data ingestion. When you're looking at best practices for ensuring sensitive types of corporate data and making sure your customer financials are secure, you want to make sure that you've got a system that is safe, protects the privacy, and that you are not breaching any government policies with respect to data, anything like GDPR, any of the regulatory or governmental compliance. I know I spoke really fast. It's very difficult to fit a lot of information in 30 minutes. Just to recap, modern AI invoicing, at the heart of the matter, really combines automation, cognitive data capture, and predictive workflows, along with ERP integration and conversational AI to improve billing accuracy, customer self-service, compliance, fraud detection, and operational scalability. When using neurosymbolic AI, it's going to further enable structured e-invoicing, intelligent validation, and seamless global financial operations across the enterprise ecosystems. So again, always my parting thought, using AI native invoicing really will help you transform your billing into intelligent, autonomous ecosystems, delivering faster processing, higher accuracy, seamless customer experience, and make your compliance stronger and scale your financial operations globally. And with that, I want to thank you for your time today. If you're interested, our next masterclass will take place on June 18th. This one's going to be on AR analytics. So please join us if you will. If you have any questions and I didn't get back to you, please email us at emagia@emagia.com, or feel free to email me directly at phyllis.saavedra@emagia.com. Wherever you are, have a great rest of your day, and thanks for joining us.